Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for October 28th. October 28th, by the way, is the 301st day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 64 days remaining until the end of the year. Now, before we move on to the next story, I just want to say that when you're searching for historical events online, some sources are more reliable than others. Some of the sources that I use and post in my show notes are great places to get ideas, but some of them need further research to verify them. Sometimes the dates are wrong, sometimes the facts don't bear out. So if you're going to do work like this, be sure to verify your stories. Make sure you can get the same story from more than one place. And if you see anything in any of my videos that you know to be incorrect, please let me know. And today we're going to start by going all the way back to year 312 again. If you'll remember, yesterday Constantine received his famous vision of the cross. This was particularly significant because the very next day, which is today, he was victorious in battle. You remember that? Well, this is the day of that victory. And on this day in history, Constantine the Great defeated Marcus Aurelius Valerius Maxentius at the Mulvian Bridge. This made him the sole Roman emperor in the West. Go Constantine. In 1636, the Massachusetts Bay Colony voted to establish a theological college in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which would later become Harvard University, now the oldest institution of higher learning in the United States. In 1886, the Statue of Liberty was dedicated. It was originally named Liberty Enlightening the World. It was dedicated at Liberty Island, New York, formerly Bedloes Island, by President Grover Cleveland. The Statue of Liberty was a gift of friendship from the people of France to the people of the United States and was dedicated on this date in 1886. In 1919, Congress enforces Prohibition. Congress passed the Volstead Act over President Woodrow Wilson's veto. They can do that, you know. The Volstead Act provided for enforcement of the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, also known as the Prohibition Amendment. In 1940, Italy invaded Greece. Mussolini's army, already occupying Albania, invaded Greece in what would prove to be a disastrous military campaign for the Deuce's forces. As an aside, it seems Mussolini may have kind of had a pattern of maybe not the best military decisions. We talked about this in one of the other This Day in History stories. In 1952, American actress Annie Potts was born. And I know she's had several parts, but the first one I remember seeing her in was Ghostbusters. So that's a fond memory for me. We got one! In 1955, American businessman, philanthropist, and co-founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates was born. In 1961, Chuck Berry went on trial for the second time. Although his earlier conviction for transporting a minor across state lines for immoral purposes in violation of the Mann Act was thrown out on appeal, the prosecution decided to retry Berry. He was one of the biggest pop stars of the late 50s when he began to have legal problems. While charges in yet another Mann Act violation were pending, which were dismissed in 1960, Berry met a young woman in a bar near El Paso, Texas. According to Berry, she claimed to be 21 years old, and he took her on the road with his traveling rock show. After they had a falling out, she complained about Berry to the authorities. During that second trial, Berry was convicted and sentenced to 3 years in prison. After a short stretch in Leavenworth Federal Prison, he was transferred to a Missouri jail where he spent his time studying accounting and writing songs. Among the songs he wrote before his release from prison in October of 1963 were No Particular Place to Go. I guess that's true when you're in jail. And You Never Can Tell, later memorialized in the film Pulp Fiction. 1965, the St. Louis Gateway Arch was completed. The construction was completed on the Gateway Arch, a spectacular 630-foot-high parabola of stainless steel marking the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial on the waterfront of St. Louis, Missouri. And I must tell you that if you haven't been to see that, you need to. One of our trips from Oklahoma to New York gave ourselves an overnight in the St. Louis area, and took the tour. They have these tiny, tiny little cars that hold 6 people if you're not too plump. That would take you all the way to the top, and then you can get out, and there's windows. You can see, oh my goodness, what a view. The history. I believe it's a national park. It's quite a thing to see. The arch in St. Louis is huge. I mean, you see pictures of it, but when you're there, it's huge. If you haven't seen that, you need to go check it out. 1966, American blogger and activist Matt Drudge was born. 1967, American actress and producer Julia Roberts was born. 1998, President Bill Clinton signs the Digital Millennium Copyright Act into law, also known as DMCA. According to an ABC News report, it was none other than the pop icon Prince himself, who happened upon a 29-second home video of a toddler cavorting to a barely audible background soundtrack of his 1984 hit Let's Go Crazy, and subsequently instigated a high-profile legal showdown involving YouTube, the Universal Music Group, and Pennsylvania Housewife. Like the lawsuits that eventually shut down Napster, the case involved a piece of federal legislation that has helped establish a legal minefield surrounding the use of digital music in the age of the Internet. That legislation, called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, also known as DMCA, was signed into law by President Bill Clinton on October 28, 1998. And holy cow, that's it for today. We're going to wrap this up. As always, links to my research are included in the show notes. And remember what I said about getting more than one source to verify your information. Thanks for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And feel free to share this video. Spread it all over the interwebs. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. On October, okay, with the notifications, blah, 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 coffee mug. Is that right? 19. Is it 62 or 92? One place it says 62 and one place it says 92. Here's a place where further research is required. Or we could do it like this. On October 28 of some year, thank you for reminding me. Roman numerals. Is that right? Sure would be nice if I could ever read one of these in its entirety without having to start anything over. That would be awesome. I might have to take another look at that. I'm going to have to look at that. So, plumbing happens. This is why I don't do live shows.